Swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. Now, I've been a victim of this in my life. There was a situation where a prominent preacher aired out a major grievance that he had with me publicly to hundreds of thousands of people on YouTube at one point. Not one time did I receive a phone call. I mean, you would think, like, if somebody had a problem with you, you know, a preacher of all people, like, they would, you know, there would be some communication, right? But the opposite happened. He blocked my phone number, so I couldn't even call, right? So he wouldn't even go through. Then he blocked me on any sort of social media or messaging app. And so there was no way that there could be any, clarification or anything like that. And he airs out this giant grievance with me publicly to hundreds of thousands of people. He didn't call me. He didn't communicate with me. He just went straight to attacking me. He was not slow to wrath, right? He was not slow he was not slow to speak. He was swift. He was not swift to hear and slow to speak. No, he didn't even listen. He put his fingers in his ears and said, "Ah!" So nobody could hear him. No, he couldn't hear anybody else. You know, kids will do sometimes. Can't hear you. Can't hear you. Blocked my cell phone, blocked all that. And someone tried to call him and ask him to talk to me on the phone. I'll never talk to that Johnson. Yeah, okay, all right. But the Bible, what does the Bible actually say about that? The Bible says, he that answereth a matter before he heareth it. That means to hear the situation, okay? You know, that means hearing the other person's side of it, right? It is a folly and a shame unto him. And, you know, guess what? It was a folly and shame to him. And it's true as a result of this rush to judgment. You know, he's guilty of lying, slander, gross exaggeration, and other sins. Complete lack of charity. But, you know, the Bible says, he that is slow to anger is better than the mighty. Amen. And he that ruleth his spirit than he that taketh the city. Proverbs 16:32. Isn't that an amazing statement? If you can control your tongue, control your spirit, control your anger, you're like greater than, you know, some, you know, war hero that can go conquer a whole city. Yeah. Think about that. Colossians 4:6 says, let your speech be always with grace, seasoned with salt, that you may know how ye ought to answer every man. Same type of thing. Slow to speak. Slow to anger, slow to wrath, swift to hear. Let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. Look down, James 1:26, the Bible says this down there at the end of the chapter. If any man among you seem to be religious and bridleth not his tongue, but deceiveth his own heart, this man's religion is vain. Think about that. So we see that the man that's able to control his temper and his anger is greater than the mighty, and the one that's able to control his spirit is better than one that's able to conquer a city. Okay, that's a fleshly thing to do, to go conquer a city, but if you can control your spirit, that's amazing. That's a powerful thing. But the Bible says this: if somebody seems to be religious, I mean, you look at them and they're like checked all the boxes. They're the best Christian in the church. I mean, man, they're, what's the boxes in a lot of churches, right? So in the crowd that I was with before this, we were in the kind of hanging out in that new IFB crowd a lot. There would be like, one giant box that just says soul winning, right? All the other graces and the virtues, it seemed like they were just kind of lacking in those things. But hey, they seemed religious because they did a lot of soul winning, right? It seemed like that was the big box they checked. Well, the Bible says this: if any man among you seem to be religious, whatever that might be, you say, that person's very pious, that person's very, very serious. He goes to church 3 times a week, reads his Bible, does his prayers, goes soul winning, does all that. But if he can't control his tongue, the Bible says, he deceiveth his own heart. This man's religion is vain. It's vanity. Now that's a powerful verse. You may have people that are very religious. They check those boxes, but they can't control their tongue. The Bible says that their religion is vain. 1828 Webster says vain means empty, worthless, having no substance, value, or importance. Ooh, that's powerful. It's kind of like when Paul said, and though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith so that I could remove mountains and have not charity, I am nothing. I am zero, zilch, nada. If you can't control your spirit, you don't have love, you're nothing. All right. James chapter 1. Continuing the thought here, verse number 19. Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath.